You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 104 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me, as always, is my podcast partner in crime, writer, journalist, dog mom, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hey, happy President's Day, Dave.
Happy President's Day. I'm old enough to remember...
Oh, well, you go first with the old joke.
I'm old enough to remember when we got 2 days off. We got Lincoln and Washington.
I thought you were going to tell me you're old enough to know, like, Abe Lincoln or something.
No. If I knew him and didn't slap him for being a tyrant, you wouldn't respect me.
That's right. Who was your favorite president?
Jefferson.
It's a good one.
Hard to mess with Jefferson. Actually, we got someone running for the 14th out here that put on his remarks that the separation between church and state is a lie. And that phrase actually traces back to a letter Jefferson wrote in like 1802, introducing the phrase separation between church and state. And I said, well, if you can't listen to Jefferson, if you're going to call Jefferson a liar, I mean, it's not much I can do for you.
Yeah. I would have to say him or Washington. I'm just a George Washington lover.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Like, I just love all the things he wrote, you know? Like, everything was so great. And then people started sucking. Now look at us.
And his humility and reluctance to serve in that position.
Yes. It's ongoing right now. I think it started on Sunday night, but there's a, and so, I mean, it's ongoing, but you'll be able to watch it anytime. There's a very well done, I think, National Geographic President's Day.
It's on History Channel.
History Channel, yes.
It's on History Channel. It started Sunday night. It's a 3-part miniseries. I think each part's like 2 hours.
Yes, on GW.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's good. It's on the DVR.
Excellent. Me too. We'll discuss. We will regroup. We will regroup.
I'll leave you.
Yeah.
Now it says coffee talk. Discuss amongst yourselves.
Oh gosh.
Jessica, how's your week?
I mean, last week was better than this week's going to be because the legislature's back, but at least they're, slightly humbled after having spoken about the budget for 2 weeks.
I just like your note. Everything is back to being awful. I hate everyone.
Well, to be fair, when I wrote the outline, I was pretty fired up. When we talk about the stories, I think everyone will understand why. If anyone is Facebook friends with me, they know that I've been losing my mind like nonstop, but you'll appreciate this. So one of my mentors doubles as a stand-in dad, just somebody that coaches me through a lot of stuff but knows my writing very well, sent me a message last week or so and was like, it was a screenshot of a comment I said because I made mention that when I was mad that Brian Kemp was using that stupid pickup truck from his commercials to round up constitutional protections. And they were like, this made me LOL. And I said, haha, I was just really fired up. And he's like, sometimes it's hard to tell with you. Yesterday, not so much. Because literally all day I was yelling through the computer, just livid about... And the legislature wasn't even in. And I'm like, this is not good if I am this mad about what they're doing. And they're not even technically doing anything yet.
And I read the outline and sent you a message like, damn, Jessica, you're salty.
Yeah, well, come on. There were some pretty ridiculous things last week.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get to them.
Yes, let's get to them. Well, wait. How was your week?
My week was not bad. I actually took as part of one of my meetings, I did a social media talk about how to handle social media with business and, TikTok and Instagram.
Please tell me you're going to start advertising through TikTok.
he made a valid point that as you get older, your target gets older too, and they'll stay with it. The people who were on Facebook 10 years ago are still on it. They're just 10 years older. Same thing with Instagram, and same thing will be with TikTok. But what he was talking about is literally the worst part of society. It's like that you're not advertising your business. You have to do you. You take pictures wherever you go. Take whatever you're doing. Constant feed, a flow of info of pictures and what you're doing. I'm like, I block those people. I mean, I don't necessarily block them, but I like mute them so I don't see their constant. I don't care. You know, we go to a nice steakhouse, and I see people taking pictures of their steaks and stuff. I'm like, you just eat it. You know, it's okay. Just eat it. Not everybody needs to see that. Oh, look, I'm at a nice steakhouse. Take pictures of it. Just stop. But, you know, I decided the end is near, and it will be live streamed.
Woo!
Be a bunch of people taking selfies in front of a mushroom cloud. So, Senator Kelly Loeffler loaned herself $5 million, and she'll collect interest on it when she pays herself back.
This is allowed, so that's important to preface with. I saw the headline. Of course, it was not on like your traditional media outlets. It was on an alternative site, I guess, if that's still even a thing. I don't know, but it did check out, and she's earning 2.41% interest on the loan. So she'll make $120,000 this year. If, you know, well, she could make that much. The argument, there's a fluctuation, obviously, because as she spends money, that money's not in her account. But this is the same woman who promised to put $20 million of her own money into her re-election campaign, which is in November. So, thoughts? Because I have many.
Other than her pledge to spend $20 million, which to me, spend is not loan.
Mm-hmm.
And that may in fact be what happens. She may spend $20 million of her own and loan 25. It's possible, especially as this is going to be a jungle primary, and it's going to be no holds barred, and she's going to have to defend herself against Doug Collins and whoever the Democrats send. But as far as the interest, 2.41% is not exorbitant. It doesn't seem like, if she were to had that money in her investment accounts, she could expect a return of about that if she had not taken it out of the vehicles that she was invested in and just left it. That's money she would have made.
Okay, you're right, 100%. However, I'm of the belief that, I mean, she's going to have to fundraise at some point, and a loan is, like, it doesn't mean she'll pay it back this year. It might mean she'll pay it back next year if she's reelected, or in 5 years, like, or a little bit at a time. Like, there's so many different ways that this could be done. But it means that $5.12 million of any, like, the donations up to that amount all goes to her. And I don't think that when you're investing in yourself like this, you should be getting a return on investment for it. Like, I understand that it's allowed. I just think it's a very crappy thing to do when it's not required. Like, there were a few people who tried to say, well, she has to. No. She could have paid for whatever she wanted and then written it off as an in-kind donation to herself. Or she could have merely just bankrolled it and said, you know, if I get the money back, you know, I'm going to be making $175,000 a year. I'll probably stay here for my whole life and all of your life too, because that's what senators do, and I'll be fine. I just think the optics look bad, and, like, sorry, most of us cannot afford to put $5 million in our own campaign and then make money off of it. I just think it looks bad from the perspective of, you're going to collect, let's say she only gets $200,000 donations because she's putting $20 million of her own. Well, you just paid her interest.
Right. Look, and if the campaign had borrowed from a bank, and I don't know how much banks do that, but just a business loan for $5 million at a bank, you're not getting a 2.41 interest, especially a non-secured line. You're just not. As far as would it be better if she didn't charge herself interest? Yeah. If she said, I'm going to loan $5 million up front to the campaign and I'll probably invest $20 million later. But you'd almost worry about somebody who put $5 or $20 million in to get a job that makes $1.75 a year. I mean, that's absurd.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So why?
Well, part of it has to be the speed in which everything had to happen. She doesn't have ramp up time.
Mm-hmm.
There was she didn't form a committee, look at running for office, start going and getting donations and stuff like that. She volunteered for it, but she had to hit the ground running in January. It's February and the ads are already on. The ads have been on for a month. I mean, there were Loeffler ads, I think, around the time of the Super Bowl. So she couldn't raise it like that. So she had to either donate to her campaign, or because you realize to write something off you have to make it.
Mm-hmm.
I hear people tell me that all the time. Yeah, oh, you can write that off. You can write that off. So yeah, but you understand I have to go out and get. I know she's not doing this. Crawl across somebody's attic, sweat my ass off in order to make the money to write this off to take it off my taxes. Could she Bloomberg it? I believe she and her husband probably could. They could absolutely self-fund. But I would have to wonder about your motivations to self-fund.
To that degree, you're not talking about a state house race that needs $150,000, and you get to have this legacy of sorts, as they call it.
Right. I mean, I know you're not a fan of appointees anyway.
Oh no, that's why I won't be voting for her.
But this, I agree with you on the donations going to pay the debt service, but if the money came from anywhere else in form of a loan, 2.41% is relatively low.
I just think the optics are bad. Don't sit here and tell me she's like us when most of us aren't doing this.
Oh, come on. She grew up in the church and she rode horses.
Like, yeah. Right. And she's making 2.4% interest while making all this money. And I know she doesn't need it, but while making this hefty salary from the taxpayers, while getting, maybe, I don't know if she's taking the benefits, but like all these things, all these perks. And on top of it, you want us to help make sure that you get interest on, it's, for me, more than anything, it makes the perfect argument as to why, if you believe in a candidate, you should donate your time and your efforts to door knock or make phone calls or lick envelopes so that you can send letters, as opposed to sending money so that you can pay debt service.
Oh, sure.
So that would be my takeaway.
Most people don't have the $5 million to write a check. And I think part of that is why she's in the position. The other part is the fact that she wears her organs on the inside, because that's what Kim's been doing. I mean,
Donald Trump only had a small loan of $1 million.
In 1978 or something.
Oh, come on. Just because you were 40 then doesn't mean the rest of them have to know what the inflation was then.
Sound like my father. I used to go to a double feature, get a pickle and a Coke for a nickel.
Again, not illegal, not even unethical, just tacky.
I agree with you. It is tacky. I mean, it doesn't. I guess it's in comparison to everything else we've seen in the last week that I'm like, ah.
Oh, sure. We're starting at the least worst. So amp up story number 2. Let's go.
A bill proposed in the Georgia House would require businesses to provide access to employee restrooms in certain instances.
So this one's donned the Restroom Access Act. And, if you're on the House website and you're scrolling through bills that have been filed, like they put a portion of the title, or they have the name like this if they name it something, and you're like, it might catch your eye. I mean, a lot of times if it's just a small tweak, like you can look at the title and know that that's just some sort of annual update or whatever. And I saw this one and I was like, huh, okay. So I click it, and sure enough, it is exactly like it is a Restroom Access Act that would require businesses, if they have one, to allow certain people to use their employees' private restrooms if they have an artificial waste device, which means that you use the restroom through alternative means as opposed to naturally, for all intents and for the PG version and the lack of imagery. So they can use these employee restrooms so long as they can show paperwork on official letterhead that's signed by a doctor that says, yes, I have this medical condition, so long as the regular bathroom is not immediately available, whatever the hell that means, so long as there are 3 or more employees working at the time of the request, and so long as providing access would not create to this employee bathroom would not create a public health risk. Now, you have to be able to do all of those things and check off all of those, qualifiers, because a regular restroom is not available and you have an emergency. Please tell me. I mean, I guess if you have, I got so many comments, but how is this any different than a little kid who is like, mommy, I need to tinkle, and has an emergency and the door's locked because someone's in there taking their sweet time, and the kid wants to, how is this any different?
Well, I'm sure it is humiliating to have to explain yourself. And I know the inconvenience of needing a restroom. I for all intents and purposes, my office is the road. I know anywhere around Metro Atlanta, I know the good restrooms. Publix before lunch, oddly enough, because they were just cleaned and they don't have a whole lot of morning business, is pretty good. And we'll get an endorsement from Publix for the show. But look, the caveats on this are really making a do-nothing bill. This is a single constituent, has to be, that went to Ron Stevens and made the case that, I've got this device, I'm a victim. There have to be 3 or more employees working at the time of the request. Well, how large of a space we talking about? 3 employees in a convenience store is a bunch. Mm-hmm. 3 employees in a warehouse is nothing. Right. Security risk is part of it. So if you go into a bank, and banks a lot of times have their restrooms obviously they're not for the public. And the reason for that is they don't want people hiding in the bathroom for the bank to close so they can go and rob the bank. But, even in a bank, you've got, it's a secured area you're going into. Now, even when I was working in banking, you have a pregnant woman, and she's like, look, you have one of your tellers escort her to the back, or a little kid, you escort the mom and the kid to the back, and you stand outside the door in the secured area, and then, escort her back out when you have the staff. It takes the reasonable factor out of it, because most people are human beings. If you're like, look, this is going to be bad. I can't imagine anybody just being no. There is I can't accommodate you. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm one person. I can't let you back in the vault or in the area where we keep our cat. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm sorry. I don't.
But you're talking about making a law, a very loosely, poorly written law, based on one person's bad experience.
Oh, no, I agree. No, I completely agree. That's what I'm saying, is the law is stupid. It takes out 99% of the time people are going to treat people humanely, especially when you hear, like if I just walk into a convenience store at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like, hey, man, I need to go use the bathroom. Like, no, you can't. It's employees only. But, when someone says, hey, look, I got a medical condition, I need to, people just tend to be better.
Understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is placating a very small group. I think it's the absolute worst part of politics when you give someone victim status and special treatment. And the other worst is it tells private corporations what they can and can't do. And I found that the court of public opinion is way more damning than any legal process. Just like I was talking about social media. As soon as someone takes a picture of their full colostomy bag and a picture of the place that wouldn't let them into the restrooms to take care of what they need to take care of, that stuff goes viral. And that's how change is affected, which is you get the folks that are you get them where you hit them where it hurts. A government fine of whatever it is, $1,000, it's not going to hurt anybody. Plus, you can't. Private, my location. I don't even think this bill requires the location to be open to the public. It says business.
Right.
Well, some businesses have a locked door on the front because the public isn't welcome.
No, for considering some of the other bills that we see, it's fairly short, and like I said, it's very broad, but it's 2.5 pages, I think. Yeah, not even 2.5. It's like 2 in a sentence.
Which is the best thing about the bill.
Right, and that's normally a great thing if you're being specific, but like they even list out the eligible conditions to include Crohn's disease, colitis, any other not IBS, but inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, and any other medical condition that requires access to a toilet facility or that requires use of an ostomy device. Ostomy.
Well, and what happens when somebody? Look, Crohn's disease is awful. Colitis is awful. But I've got to dedicate staff to cleaning up after somebody. Look, you've been in a truck stop bathroom. Just because the public isn't always clean, or care if it's a restroom that's not in their home. People who keep very clean homes will go and destroy a public bathroom. Oh, by the way, it does say retail establishment. So it's not, you can't just walk up to the Brinks building, knock on the door and say, I got to use the potty.
Well, that's even worse because you're just singling out these businesses under a new requirement. Good luck in training your employees that this has to be, give me a freaking break. I know you're not arguing for it. It just really irritates me. If you are lobbying for this, then you're off the show.
No. Yeah. As a business owner, I'm certainly lobbying for more control over business.
That's right.
Speaking of more control over business, legislation seeks to cap interest rates on car title loans. A bill proposed...
No, you go.
Okay. A bill proposed in the Georgia State Senate would cap the interest rate of car title loans and limit how much lenders could collect in the event of a default.
So this one is by State Senator Randy Robertson of Columbus. He took the seat that Josh McCoon held for a long time when Josh ran for insurance commissioner. Right? No, Secretary of State. Sorry. He works for the insurance commissioner's office now. It's a bipartisan bill. Obviously, because it's that terrible of an idea. Like, in the Georgia legislature, if you see something that's bipartisan, it's usually not because it's a good idea. Occasionally, they will check the right box, but this is by, some of the worst offenders, including Huffstetter, Harbison, and Rahman. They are super socialisty. This bill... Let me just tell you the quote that Robertson told the Calhoun Times, and then we can go into the details. But he said he's pushing for the measure because of a constituent in his district who contacted him because the elderly father of the constituent pawned the title to his car to pay utility bills, then fell into a hole from the increasing monthly payments of the loan's 166% interest rate. He also told the newspaper, the Calhoun Times, that the bill will ease generational poverty and empty prisons and jails. Well, holy Randy, why didn't you do this before if it's going to empty the prisons? Especially as former president of the FOP and as a former deputy, why didn't you empty your prisons before? Damn. Who knew?
And all puppies in the pound will be adopted.
For free.
For free. And children of all ethnic and social backgrounds will join hands around the planet and sing in one voice, "We are the world."
Sounds like nails on a chalkboard to me. God. I mean, so to back up, because we didn't really, it's a 32-page bill. Because, of course, this is like squeaked into other financial type stuff, but not all related to this, which makes it even worse because that's not what you're supposed to do. It's supposed to be single issue. The rules of the House and of the General Assembly say so, but they never follow it. So he's breaking the rules. And it seeks to cap the interest rates at 36% for car titles or car title loans that are issued in our state. And then it also says that lenders, if you default, a lender cannot continue to collect interest or bring the interest rate higher after you've failed to pay for 60 days. Unless you're concealing the motor vehicle, like if you're hiding it somewhere. So they want to say how much you can charge, and then they want to say how long you can charge it for if the person defaults.
Well, you have been in Georgia long enough to pick up the pronunciation of default.
Tell me.
This is once again, private agreement. It's a private agreement between a borrower who often doesn't have any other way of getting access to loaned funds and a lender. And it is collateral-based lending. In fact, pawning is one of the oldest forms of borrowing.
Does anybody walk into a pawn shop or a title loan shop with a gun to their head saying you have to do this?
No, and that's the thing. It is a private agreement. Now, look, I'm not beating up on folks that end up having to do that. But if you need money to cash right now, and you don't have a standing line of credit, you may not have the ability to get a standing line of credit. You need cash right now. That's it. And I've known people who do very well, but with waiting on receivables, have had to run to a pawn shop and pawn a couple watches to make payroll on Friday because the receivables haven't come in yet because they need the cash right now. Not a business loan that's going to take 3 weeks to process. They need it right now. And that is a sacrifice that person makes, knowing I'm going to get ripped. It's going to cost me whatever it is, an extra 20% in a week to get my watch back. And I don't know what makes title lending any different from any other pawn.
Supposedly, the argument is that that the title loans fall into a different category and they shouldn't, is what he's arguing. That, like this isn't like a gun or a watch or a set of china. I guess that's up for debate. Like, I would be willing to hear argument. That's about as far as I would be willing to go. But I still don't think, the system is regulated the same way that pawn shops are regulated, like car title loan establishments. I don't know what the right word is for that. But if you're going to regulate them the same way, that in terms of like how they can operate the same way that you regulate a pawn shop, then I'll be darned if you're going to make it harder for them just because they pawn cars.
Well, and here's the thing. The market corrects itself. When the rates get too high, there are, and I don't know, I have no idea. All I know is the jingle that I hear over and over and over on the radio, which gets your title back with Title Max, which is if you're stuck, there are lenders that specialize in saying, okay, we'll buy that pawn out and we'll charge you less interest. So the market tends to correct itself with doing that. These lenders don't want your car; they want to get paid back. But if they have to take it, obviously they're on the right side of it, so they can sell it. It is completely different from a car loan. It is a pawn. So the government shouldn't be involved in private contracts anyway, unless it is in the form of the judicial system and civil court. Administering a case with a private contract to say what's legal and what's not. Or what a contract reads. You're in violation. Okay, you have to surrender whatever to the other party. This is just government overstep. And once again, this is a bill written for a constituent to appease. It's the worst kind of pandering. Right. And of course, as soon as you hear he's from out of Columbus, there are a lot of pawn shops and title pawn and stuff like that around any military installation, particularly our army posts. You tend to deal with a person who doesn't necessarily have a lot, a person who doesn't necessarily have great credit, but has reliable income, and it's perfect for that business.
This is just bad all around, and it's going to pass because it's in the, they're moving so as part of Kemp's budget for 2021, they're moving consumer loans, small consumer loans, and how they're regulated from the Department of Insurance, how they ended up there, I'll never know, to the Department of Banking and Finance. But that's something that's outlined in the budget that has to be allocated, or has to be, I guess, partnered through legislation to make it a thing, which means it has to pass. So, and we don't make things better before we pass them in another chamber. So, I mean, this will become a thing. And I think what's going to happen is it'll, make it harder for the people who need these types of loans to get one.
Right. Well, absolutely. And you'll see lenders just leave the market. If I can't make money, and if you're going to make it difficult to operate, because of course it sounds super high profit, but there's an inherent cost in operating, and there's an inherent cost with repoing vehicles and things like that. That's why would you? It's the same that your payday lenders left Georgia when they started passing a bunch of regulation on them. So you take away these folks' access to funds, and I would hope that the vast majority of these folks in title loans do what they need to do. They get their money, they pay it back, and they're done. And I understand getting stuck in a repeating cycle, but that's nobody else's fault. You knew the terms. I mean, you damn well knew the terms when you signed the contract. In fact, when you sign a loan, you know exactly how much you're paying back. When you do a car loan, it'll say if you go the entire 60 months, you're going to pay this much back. This $30,000 car is going to cost you $45,000. I mean, and people do it willingly. It's just man.
It's just something they have to do. It sucks. And I'm sorry. Okay, so about just really quick, because I know we have to move on, but the whole generational poverty and empty prisons and jail, he literally said that these types of people that are taking out these loans are doing so because they're in a life of it teaches and reiterates the lifestyle of you need money fast, get money fast, and so that leads to a life of crime. And
yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah. And so he's saying that this will teach them that that's not the way to do things. What?
Yeah, not making that sort of lending available doesn't help anything. And you know, it's not, that's not government's place anyway.
Preach.
A government's place is not ending poverty. The war on poverty, it has been an abject failure. The more money we throw at poverty, the more poor people there are. So, you know, do good people get caught in bad situations? Sure. But if you go and you pawn a $10,000 car for $2,000 and then end up losing it, I mean, that's not on anybody but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. I mean, to your point, no one put a gun to your head. Nobody took your title from you. No one broke in the middle of the night and took your title.
Well, and the other thing is tell me how, I mean, do they think that people are going to just, if they can't get this loan, or, because, like you said, the lenders will just not offer them. So if they think if they can't get this loan, that people just say, okay, well, I guess I can't have money this month, so I'll starve. I mean, like, they're going to find another way to do this, or find another way to get money, or do what they need to do. Like, people just do that. Talk about pushing them into a life of crime.
Well, there's 1,000 different reasons somebody might do that. And a lot of times it's you know, it is poor decision making. I really, really want something. I'll just go ahead and pawn my title, and then when I get my paycheck next month, I'll pay it off. Most of these owners, and I know some pawn shop owners and folks who've been in different businesses, are relatively accommodating with borrowers. So they'll let them pay the debt service and a piece of the principal every month, and take the nut down as well as the vig, as you chip away at it. But again, this is a private arrangement. This is like me lending you. I'm going to lend you $200. You're going to pay me back $300. Well, that's usury. No, it's a private agreement.
Right.
So here is the what the hell story of this show.
That's a nice way to put it. Hold on.
Why don't you introduce it?
These opinions are our opinions, and not those of All in Georgia, and certainly not those of any All in Georgia reporter not offering commentary on this show.
All right.
Introduced it. Okay, so unless your head has been in the sand, or you've been in a coma, or I don't know how you would know about this by now, but I guess about 10 days ago now, we started getting teasers about a story that was going to come out regarding House Majority Whip Trey Kelley, who represents Polk County and that area, Cedartown. The rundown is that, or the narrative from the media, which is being refuted in some ways, I don't know how, but is 11 Alive did a extensive reveal. The reveal is their investigative series, in which they detailed how a friend of Representative Kelley allegedly contacted him after figuring out that he may have hit something one evening after leaving the fair. It was dark. It was September. And instead of calling 911 or the police in any capacity, this driver contacted Trey Kelley. So, as it turns out, it was a human being that they hit, or that this driver hit. And the chain of events is that the man laid in a ditch for an hour before the driver or Trey Kelley contacted somebody who could contact and dispatch EMS, and the man died. So the man, who should be addressed by his name because he was a real human, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm assuming it's Eric Keyes, I don't know. But he was riding his bicycle down Main Street in Cedartown, which is in Polk County. And he was hit by a vehicle driven by a 37-year-old man named Ryan Dover, who supposedly didn't realize or didn't, I don't know, we don't know the facts of it, but the coroner said that he didn't stop until about a mile or so down the road after the impact. He didn't call 911. Like I said, he called Trey Kelley and told him he thought he may have hit a deer. Now, Trey Kelley's an attorney. I've never hit a deer and said, I'm going to call my friend or I'm going to call my attorney. If I hit a deer, I'm probably going to call non-emergency 911 so that they can come take an accident report, or I'm going to call 911 depending on what's going on. But I've never thought to call an attorney. Trey Kelley arrives, sees at some point later on sees a bike on the side of the road, and ultimately calls the police chief, James Newsom, who's off duty and at home because it's late in the evening, who gets on the radio and asks one of the working sergeants to call him on his home phone off the radio, and then is dispatched to the scene. Supposedly, the police chief realized something was sketchy, and when I guess Trey Kelley said he might have hit a person because he saw the bicycle. I don't know. These details are very blurry. But the police chief panicked at that point, and that's when he dispatched the sergeant, or asked the sergeant to go to the scene. They come to the scene. All of this time, this man is lying in the ditch. Eric is lying in the ditch in a lot of pain, supposedly, according to the coroner. Some law enforcement officials... Oh, by the way, at some point, the driver, Dover, and Kelley moved from, quote, a mile down the road to some parking lot across the street from the initial impact. Still no idea that this man is laying in a ditch, supposedly. Allegedly, whatever you want to say. When the officials arrive on the scene at 9:22 p.m., they locate this man and dispatch EMS at 9:29, 7 minutes later. 2 minutes later, EMS arrives on the scene, and obviously things are like super dire by then because it's now been an hour and 6 minutes. They take him to the hospital by ambulance, cancel the life flight because things are so bad, and he dies at the hospital. We'll talk about the facts of the case, but honestly, like, 11 Alive, I'm a Fox girl, but 11 Alive did an outstanding job outlining this article and explaining, like, you could picture what was happening, and they put these timelines with timestamps and everything that's happening, and like, you could envision everything as it happened. And this whole thing came to light because the coroner, I don't know who leaked the story, but the coroner is the one who spoke on the record and said, something isn't right here. I don't understand why the guy kept driving. You know, we missed the golden hour. Like, he was very adamant that people missed it and missed the mark all the way through this process. But the article is outstanding. If you haven't read it, we'll put it on our Facebook page. I don't know how you haven't read it if you live in the state of Georgia, but I'll let you talk, Dave.
Well, the coroner, as far as the commentary from the coroner's not a medical examiner as far as the golden hour and all that stuff. But the case I see as a chain of poor decisions. Now it's important to note. It's claimed that the driver has limited mental capacity. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we're talking about Carl from Sling Blade or Lenny from Of Mice and Men here.
Well, he lives alone. He lives on his own, and he drives a vehicle and has had a hunting license at some point. So you have to assume that he's at some point like somewhat self-sufficient. So
80 IQ, which is generally considered the base for being able to operate in society.
And we have no documentation whatsoever that this man is mentally, the driver, Dover, is mentally incompetent or disabled or nothing. We have nothing. That's all word of mouth. And so God help him. Like, I hope he really is, because if he's not, how freaking humiliating. But anyway, go on.
Well, yeah, well, seeing the pictures of him and kind of the way he holds himself and stuff, it doesn't surprise me. The weird thing is so he and who the driver thinks is his friend Trey are at the county fair. At some point they say, "Okay, bye, see you later." So he leaves, and the least offensive thing that happens is him hitting the guy on the bike. And I'll tell you why. Because that happens. It's dark. I guarantee you the dude on the bike was not wearing like reflective stuff. This isn't, he's not, Johnny Spandex here. He's riding in dark. So that sort of stuff happens. It's the choices that are made after that point. I guess we get a statement, and I can sort of visualize it even with Kelly's statement, which is he gets a frantic phone call from this guy saying, "I hit something. I had an accident. I don't know what I hit. I don't know if it was deer or a dog or a person." And this is where Kelly's statement really kind of bothered me, where he says, "Well, I put my boots back on and got in my pickup truck and ran over there." Damn it, boy. You're not making a political statement. You're addressing a situation that people are attempting to hold you responsible for. And you had to go ahead and throw in the Brian Kemp commercial. I don't know if he was planning on rounding up any illegals on the way to check out this accident. So anyway, he gets there. The guy is inconsolable, has no idea what's going on. Finally, he gets from him that it might have been a person. So, and it's unclear at what point he calls the chief of police from the time that he got to the gas station where the guy pulled over. We know he calls the chief at 9:11 p.m. The crash is at 8:25. Going the mile down the road, I mean, if you ever hit a deer, I mean, you look for a place to pull over and check your car. That even is not the worst of it. Is as soon as Kelly gets the call, and I don't know what time the call is, going from the driver to Representative Kelly, is if you think you hit a deer, at least call the non-emergency number and get somebody out there to look. Because even if I hit a deer, I don't want a deer sitting there with 3 broken legs on the side of the road. I want to go take care of that.
You want to make sure that deer is not suffering.
Right. I mean, yeah, I would put an animal down. If I hit somebody's family dog and the dog has a broken leg, I want to check that collar and make a phone call.
I don't want to talk about that.
So, well, no, it's the comparison to a human being.
Sure, I understand
that I wouldn't treat an animal that way, even an animal that I would eat. On a lighter note, it reminds me of me, myself, and Irene, where he hits the cow and keeps trying to put the cow down. So now we've got a 6-minute conversation with the chief of police. And at some point, reading not really transcript, but the recollection, the chief says, "Wait, you think it might have been a person?" And at that point, our next poor decision
chills through you. Like, can you imagine being on the other line? Like, someone's calling you at home, and they're like, halfway through the call, they're like, "Wait, you might have hit a person."
Right. Now, keep in mind, this is 9:00 at night on a Sunday.
Gosh, I don't know.
I think at 9:00 at night, and the chief is a grown ass man, so he's probably sitting down, having a glass of iced tea, dinner's over, and watching Sunday Night Football or something, because it was in September, and your buddy calls you and says, somebody else we know hit something. And the chief says he thought that the rep was calling to get an accident report done. But the next problem here is the chief contacts the duty sergeant and tells him to call me at home.
Off the radio.
Off the radio. Yeah, I'm assuming the conversation went something like, hey, guy hit something. He doesn't know if it's a deer. He's all freaked out. Would you mind sending somebody by there just to take a look? And that's where we get the this I don't understand. EMS is dispatched at 9:29. At 9:31 p.m., Sergeant finds Eric in a ditch. So as soon as the deputy gets there, he decides, because from 9:22 when Sergeant tells dispatch he's at the scene, 9 minutes later he finds Eric in the ditch. In between there, he calls EMS, so he had an idea that something was done. I mean, I assume it's the bike that he saw in the ditch. Am I pretty accurate on that, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I understood everything too. And you know, you mentioned the coroner, that they're not a medical examiner, blah, blah. You're 100% right. I think that it's important just to mention that the coroner was only speaking like we missed the golden hour, because if a trauma patient can get to a trauma setting within an hour, their chances of survival improve or changes dramatically. And I think that any reasonable person could say, my God, if this man hadn't lied in the ditch for an hour, things may have ended differently. I mean, it's remarkable. Nobody really cares because they were too late, but EMS arrived in 2 minutes. Like, that's fantastic. They should be commended for that. 2 minutes response time, and they worked their asses off in the several minutes that they tried to save his life. And I guess we're ultimately saying, like, it's not looking good. You know, we don't think this is going to be.
I think this goes down to nobody believing the driver. It might have been a person. They're like, you didn't. He's all freaked out. Would someone just come out and take a look? He's all freaked out. I don't, But I don't understand the chief keeping it off the radio.
I don't understand Trey Kelley calling the chief at home either. If somebody called me and if I was gonna go to the scene, because there are certain friends who said if they needed me, like, of course I'm gonna hop in the car and go. I don't know but I'm calling 911 on the way. Like, here's where I'm headed. Please send somebody. Like, something's very wrong.
And again, I don't know the relationship between the driver and Kelly. No idea.
Well, Trey Kelley has been downplaying it, if you notice.
Oh yeah, he did the exact wrong thing with that, because he called this dude a constituent.
Yep, and there's pictures of them together, and his parents have said that Trey Kelley took him under his wing several years ago. Right.
Yeah. There's this dude's profile picture on Facebook is he and Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the relationship is here. And it could be that he's just a good-meaning guy that not all the wires are connected correctly, but he's overall a good dude. And especially in politics, you got somebody who will knock on doors for you and do all that stuff. Yeah, he's useful. But Kelly did exactly the wrong thing when he's trying to distance himself, because that looks like he's trying to throw, this guy who obviously has a huge affection for him, obviously idolizes this guy, obviously takes every opportunity to be around him, and throws all that out to try to cover his political ass. And I prefer the Tom Clancy line in Clear and Present Danger when it says, when the president was trying to distance himself, and Jack Ryan says, "No, sir. When someone asks, were you friends? You say, we were the closest of friends." Is you diffuse a lot of it by saying, yes, he's a good guy. We're friends. He visits me at the Capitol. He has helped on campaigns. He knocks on doors. I really like the guy. He's a good person. I like him. I didn't think he hit somebody. I thought he was overreacting. It come out with the damn truth, because I don't understand the cover-up. The cover-up's worse than the damn crime. It always is.
Oh, always is. And there are some people who have said this is not a cover-up, blah blah blah. Okay, well, if it's like I said, and I hate to be so blunt, but I feel like this case really upsets me. If worst case scenario, it is a cover-up, and these people are terrible, soulless individuals. Best case scenario, they are total dumbasses who have no comprehension of what to do in an emergency and have no regard for, like, the worst case scenario when, like, you supposedly called someone who wasn't involved, which was Trey Kelley, and he shows up and still doesn't know what the right thing to do is?
You know, and the fact is, there is no crime in accidentally hitting somebody unless he was drunk, which we assume he was not because there was a police officer on the scene.
No, we don't assume he was not. There was supposedly no testing done.
Well, he was at the county fair. But let's assume nothing else was going on.
Okay,
you're not drag racing, you're not drunk, you're not doing anything else that puts the public at risk. It's an accident. You didn't see him. So there's no reason to cover it up. Plus, if you called 911 immediately, say, I don't know what I hit, and they come out and they say, you hit a turtle. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is. Somebody left a rock on the side of the road. That's what you hit. That's it. And in the worst case, you hit a human being. Thank God you called. We found him. Now, I don't know if he could have been saved in that magic hour. I have no idea. I have no idea if he was conscious for that hour. No idea. I know he was struck hard enough to send him further into the bushes of a ditch. The way I read it, he was launched to the point where they found the bicycle and then had to continue to look for what they hit because he was launched. So I don't understand I have to go with the dumbass on this one. I don't think it was an evil act. I just don't think they had any regard for the worst possible situation. I think they assumed the best, that it was a deer. It is hunting season. Deer are out moving at dusk. I think they assumed the best, but they didn't prepare for the worst.
Do you think that charges should be filed?
I don't know what charges to file. He didn't really leave.
Well,
I
think so. In these cases, like, okay, let's say it, like you in your hypothetical, genuinely was a true accident with no other factors, like I just would like, whether it's a failure to maintain lane or failure to exercise due care or following too closely or distracted driving.
Yeah, you don't have a case for any of it that I know of. And from what we've read, we don't know what happened.
We don't know what happened, but they're going to take it before the grand jury, which means that it's possible that we're going to see felony stuff. So I don't know what to charge the chief with other than the one charge that we hate, which is violation of oath of office. Oh, no. I don't support that. He's just a shitty person, and he did something that I think was unethical. And
he should be fired.
Yeah. Or like censored by the council or something. Like tarred and feathered will suffice too, but no, he's no criminal charges. And I don't even know that Trey Kelley should face criminal charges. I don't know. And his as far as the chief goes, and he broke procedure when he gets on the radio, when he's been told by somebody it's possible that we hit a person, and then he says, "Hey, I can't remember the verbiage, but hey, bro, hit me up on my home phone."
So he certainly broke with procedure there. I don't know that it's a crime. I don't know that what Trey Kelley did was a crime. I thought it was funny that Kelley didn't call his friend a client, which means anything that was, I don't know. I don't know. What Kelley did is court of public opinion stuff.
I think he should resign.
He's not going to.
No, he's not, but I think he should. And I'm not usually a calling for resignation type thing, but his judgment is not sound, in my opinion.
It would be interesting to see if he qualifies. Unless he just, he just decides to walk away and work on his private practice.
Blech.
Well, we could do 2 hours on this damn subject because it is so.
A man is dead, and that's what's so upsetting.
So layered, but yeah, I mean, the coroner calling it a homicide and hit and run. He was kind of outside of his.
Well, it is a homicide, no matter what. Somebody else caused his death.
Well, no, it could be death by accident. It certainly wasn't natural causes.
Well, no, but on a traffic report, it's a homicide by vehicle.
But, and again, if they call 911 immediately and they find out the guy didn't have any reflectors on the bike, and we don't know. And I'm not trying to blame the victim, but the least offensive part of this was accidentally hitting the dude on the side of the road in the dark. That's what's so disturbing is that was going to happen one way or the other. It was the poor decisions made after that led to somebody sitting in a ditch for an hour.
It's a story. It's not a story that a man had a man, whether not intentional, but like because of his own negligence or because of an accident, hit another man and cost him his life. That's not the story. The story is that person in power after person in power chose to do things outside of the traditional mode of communication that the rest of us follow. And look what happened. And God almighty, an hour. I can't even imagine how long that hour must have been for that poor man. And it's disgusting to watch these people talk about it like it's not a big deal or like that man didn't matter or to downplay all the facts. They're facts.
No, they are. Like I said, I don't know what other. He cannot be so mentally damaged that he doesn't know 911. Like you said, he lives on his own, had a hunting license, and drives a car. His parents saying he wouldn't have had the mental capacity to call 911 or to think to call 911. He called his friend. Mm-hmm. Even if I had a friend call me, I hit something, man. I don't know what it was. You need to call 911, bro. Like I'll come get you. Even if I'm a lawyer, you need to call 911 and then shut up. So we're running long.
I know.
I don't know. We could sit and go back and forth with the same thing because, yeah.
Well,
anyway.
I would like to give updates on this, and there'll be more as this continues to unfold because there's a lot that we don't know. So, we can talk about it again and maybe with a little bit less emotion because it is frustrating. But
it is. Well, Jessica, closing thought?
Well, because we're running long, I'll just keep it brief and say that everything is back to being awful and everyone sucks.
If you like what you heard, or liked our commentary on what you heard, because that's an awful way of saying that now, like and share us on social media. Give us a rating on the platform you use to listen to us. For Jessica Szilagyi, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.